Welcome to Dysfunctionally Yours, the podcast where we embrace the chaos, laugh through the struggles, and find hope on the other side of trauma. I'm your host, Brittany, and if you've ever felt like your life was a beautifully messy roller coaster of dysfunction, trust me, you're in good company. Here, we'll have real, raw, and sometimes ridiculous conversations about mental health, relationships, and healing, because let's be honest, life isn't always pretty, but that doesn't mean we can't come out of it stronger and maybe even smiling. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of bubbles, and let's navigate this wild journey together, dysfunctionally, but never alone.
Welcome back, friends. I'm your host, Brittany, and what a weird week. That's all I'm going to say. This was a weird week for me overall. Just had some big feelings about my brother's passing. They come and they go, right? That grief cycle is, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm great. Other times I feel like, what the hell? And then sometimes I'm really just caught off guard. So this week, I think overall was a little bit of a weird week. And so that coupled with the fact that last week's episode was really challenging for me. It was really, really tricky for me to be able to edit, to listen back to. And every moment of every day, I thought about scrapping it and being like, no, this is not what we're doing. And ultimately, I didn't scrap it. And I think I really just got in my head with that. So it was a little bit tricky, which leads me into my ache and relief of the week. My ache of the week really is that because of all of those feelings I had about releasing the last episode, it gave me a little bit of like writer's block. And I was really having a hard time being like, what now? Like, I hate everything. I'm really in my head about some of these things, right? Like we don't always look back and feel proud of ourselves. And to make that so public, not that it was hidden, it's just not something on the forefront. And so it was a little tricky and then made me a little confused. And so that was something that caused me a lot of stress all week long. And I'm actually recording 2 days late because I just couldn't get myself where I needed to be and was really kind of avoiding it, running away from it a little bit. My relief of the week would be that I took my dog to this off-leash, like open space. My girlfriend has been telling me I need to take Pepper there for a long time. And my dog is a little bit of a crazy girl. And I've been really, really worried about taking her. Really worried about how she's going to act. Really worried about if she'll, I don't know, come back or if I will just lose her. And so finally took her. She did so good. I was so proud of her. And then we ran into some couple like friends and their dogs too. My little sweetie, she was just such a good little doggy. And I was just so proud of her. And it really made me very, very, very happy to be able to take her and let her run and jump and leap and do the things that she does, but then also know that like, okay, you'll come back and we're all going to go home and it's going to be okay. And she's been getting to go to some patios because who doesn't love a patio in the summer with a little bit of bubbles, a little bit of brunch. And so she's been coming and she just gets better and better. And I'm just really, really excited about that journey for my dog, right? Like I'm going to celebrate my dog. Like go girl, go. Everybody should go get themselves a pound puppy and be so patient because it's been a journey. So with that, you know, whenever I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, I was like, well, let me couple some of those things that I've actually been going through this week, right? I've been dealing with some grief stuff about Chase, and I've been needing to use some of my big girl coping skills. And so I thought I would talk a little bit about just coping skills, what that looks like, and maybe bring it full circle a little bit, right? Because I know some of this is like heavier stuff, but it's not all heavy, right? This has been a process for me. This has been a journey for me. And so that's why I want to talk about the whole journey as a whole, because no matter where you are in your journey, I just know that we're able to relate to one another, and we need that. We need to be like, yep, I remember when I was there, or we need to be like, that's where I am right now, or we need to be able to be like, okay, so there's hope. So there's hope that we won't always be so dysfunctional. So I know in the past few episodes, I've talked about some suicidal ideations, those attempts. I've like grazed over self-injurious behaviors, and then even mentioned that I started, drinking and was probably doing that in a very inappropriate kind of way. And these are very unsafe and unhealthy coping skills. If anybody needed me to point that back out, like, I'm aware, right? I talked about that journey, like whenever I started harming myself and being like, this is scary. I know this isn't okay. And I know, like, this is scary for me. So if it's scary for me, what on earth are other people around me thinking and feeling? And like, how is that impacting them, right? Didn't know. It was real scary. And that was kind of what I was working through. And, so that had its own place and time. And it wasn't short-lived, right? Like, I think my first attempt was when I was 15. And then my last attempt, I was like 23, right? It was a 8-year journey of just really being very, very determined in this and very, very unwell. Then you throw in some drinking, and it's like nobody ever said adding alcohol to the mix was going to make that depression any better, because we know that's actually not how that works, right? We know that alcohol is a depressant. And so that doesn't help, nor do the behaviors that we exhibit in those moments help either. But that's where I was. Then there was also this moment in time where I found that I really loved smashing ceramic plates on ceramic tile. Like, I had these ceramic tile floors in Italy, and the sound that makes, that ceramic hitting ceramic, that sound that it makes is so loud. And you just watch pieces of ceramic go, pieces of ceramic? That doesn't sound right. Pieces of ceramic plates go flying all over the place. And there's something very cathartic in that. And I loved it. I don't know how many plates I went through. So many plates. And I feel like it really got a point across. I don't know what that point was, but I feel like it really, in that moment, got a point across. Like, I am this angry. Hear how loud this is. See this big mess that this is making? This is how I feel inside. I feel loud, and I feel angry, and I feel messy, and I feel very broken. Like, every part of this was just a very symbolic. And so that made it very cathartic for me. Fun fact, the Greek culture, plate smashing is thought to be a fun way to release tension, and it's supposed to release positive energy. So too bad I'm not Greek, or maybe in another life. All jokes aside, I mean, you gotta laugh where you can, right? But I certainly wasn't doing it for funsies. I certainly wasn't doing it to celebrate. I was really just this messy, and this was the only way. Like, this is me screaming out. So that had a moment. That had a long moment that surfaced from time to time. Like, and again, not proud moments, but I remember even years and years after this, like, I remember getting mad and grabbing a plate and just smashing it down on the granite island and breaking it. Like, it broke, and I was like, nice. And I did it 4 more times. Just like smash, smash, smash. Again, just proving a point. I'm not saying I was proving a good point. I'm just saying it did what it needed to do for me in that very moment. This has also looked like me running away, like literally running away. As a teenager, I used to run away from home all the time. I would run away from friends, this is too hard, not dealing with this anymore. Run away from relationships, this is too hard, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And I think we really saw a history over the past handful of episodes of me really thinking that I could just run away to a new location with new side characters, and there would be no more problems. So running away was a solid coping skill of mine. And I talked a lot about how that it doesn't work that way, right? Life will always catch up to you. It doesn't ever stop following you. So, that was lessons to be learned about, like, you can't run away. You can't run away from your problems. You're not an ostrich. We're not sticking our head in the sand. You're going to have to deal with these things. The poor coping skills also looked like not respecting other people's boundaries because they made me uncomfortable. I think I went from running away from certain things to becoming overly confrontational to where it was like, oh no, we are talking about this and we are talking about it right now. And that's not awesome. I remember whenever I first moved out and I was driving the U-Haul away from Colorado to California, I remember my dad said, don't ever go to bed angry at one another. Like, you don't need to do that. Address your issues. And I took that in my brain in the most literal sense. So it was like, oh, if we're not in agreement at bedtime, we're staying up all night long. We're going to stay up until the sun rises. I don't care that there is a baby to take care of. I don't care that there's a job to go to. We are staying up all day and all night, and we are going to talk about this and talk about it and talk about it some more until we come to some sort of resolution. That's not what that means. And I don't think I learned that lesson for 15 years after that, maybe longer. Who's to say? How old am I? I don't know. And so that doesn't work, right? Then I'm having this fight and I feel like I'm so relentless once I lock my teeth in something that it's like, I will wear you down, right? That's how that becomes, right? It's not, oh, we're finding resolution. It's like, I'm gonna wear you down until you just give in because you can't fight with me anymore. That's not okay. That's not okay. That's not respecting what somebody else wants or what somebody else needs. And that's not working together in a relationship, right? Like in a relationship, you're a team and you're supposed to work together as a team. Like, this isn't me against you or you against me. This is us together overcoming whatever we're like, whatever's challenging us. And that did not foster that environment. That mentality did not foster that environment. And so that was tricky. People walk away and I'd be like, don't walk away from me, and follow them around. Like, again, until I'm getting what I want out of this. And that's not okay. We have to be able to respect other people's boundaries. And sometimes that does make us uncomfortable. Boundaries, they're called boundaries. They make us uncomfortable. And so that was tricky. Like, those were tricky things to learn, especially whenever I'm coming off of all of these other very negative coping skills, right? Okay, so I'm not harming myself, but you are gonna talk to me right now. And, I'm sure there's a balance in there somewhere, but in these moments in time, that wasn't balance. What? No. And I'm over here being like, I'm just communicating. All right, well, communicate away. But Brittany, you suck. Like, this is not how we communicate. This is not how I would want to be communicated with. And this is not how other people want to be communicated with. And this is not how we're going to find a solution to the problem. And so not respecting other people's boundaries and then not having my own boundaries was also, problematic. Almost all of these came with horrible consequences. I mean, some of them quite obvious, ending up in the hospital or the ICU, hurting myself physically, right? That's an obvious. But then there were other consequences. The plates, first of all, probably created a lot of fear in the household. I don't know that my kids were around for this. I did grow in that like my kids don't need to be a part of everything. So like not fear for them, but that's not creating psychological safety for whoever is in the house with me, right? If plates are smashing and you're like, I don't know what Brittany is going to do, but I know she's probably going to break something. Like, that's not creating this safe space for me or anybody else at all. Oh my gosh. If I smashed a plate right now, like if I broke a plate right now, if I dropped a plate on the ground on accident right now, I guarantee you my dog would go hide under the bed. It would scare her so much, right? So, I mean, just everything. Like, nobody likes that level of chaos. But it also, plates aren't cheap. Have you bought new dishes? Like, plates are not cheap. Like, I get a chip on a plate nowadays and I'm like, oh God, it's the end of the world. My plate chipped. You know how much plates cost? So like, I don't know where my brain was at that moment in time, so sucked for my bank account. But it also really sucked. They took a toll, like these poor coping skills that I had really took a toll on relationships that I had because, again, people deserve to have their boundaries respected. People deserve to feel safe, and people can only take so much. Like when I told you that my friend was like, you're gonna go get help or I'm done doing this with you. Like that was real. That was real. And I wasn't willing to lose somebody who'd been so supportive of me. So it was like, whatever, fine. I guess I'm going to do this because I'm not willing to suffer that loss. I'm not willing to actively make that choice. So I think I've had my fair share of poor coping skills, whether it has been physically lashing out or, the plates or just any of the things. So I've definitely run the gambit of not handling things in the most awesome or appropriate way. I think when it comes to the self-interest behaviors, that one was tricky, right? Because I talked about how much that scared me. And then I finally got to a point where I wasn't doing it. And I finally had a new therapist at that point who was like, just keep track of when you're not doing it. Keep track of it and give yourself credit for that. Try and go one day, try and go 1 week, try and go 1 month, really being able to keep track of this so that I could mindfully look back on it and be like, well, what did I do instead that worked? And so I think that was more helpful. And that is what the original doctor meant when she was like, I can't make you stop. And I'm like, what? Yeah, why? Fix me. Right. But I was finally with somebody that I was working with that was able to help me understand, like, no, I cannot physically stand there and make you not do this. But let's look at big picture. Like, let's look at all of the things that are happening around this. And so that is what I did. And then I remember getting to this point and I hadn't hurt myself for years. And then my brother ended up in prison. And it was such a terrible time. All of my feelings, all of the big feelings in the whole wide world about wanting to help and feeling helpless and not knowing what to do and being really scared, like every vulnerable feeling was there. And every feeling of all of the biggest anger, like the biggest angers was there. And I started to self-harm again. And I felt horrible. I felt like such a failure. How have I gone so long? And now this is where I am. And this did not make me feel better this time. This used to make me feel better. And now it didn't make me feel better. It in fact made me feel worse. And so going back to my therapist with that and being like, I did this. I feel horrible. I feel like a failure, and talking a lot then about what relapse looks like and feels like, and really being able to reframe that to be like, correct, you fell off, like you were doing so good. Yes, it had been 2 years. You were doing really, really excellent. You found other things. Let's reflect on this. Let's work on this. And let's really acknowledge that this didn't meet the need that it used to meet. And not look at that as a bad thing, but look at that as a good thing. Like that's the thing to celebrate, that you've grown enough to realize that even though this is what you resorted back to because it was easy and comfortable, it's actually not the thing that you want. It's not the thing that you need. And it didn't actually serve a purpose. And start at day one again. And I think really having somebody at that time to talk that through, to be like, nope, this is okay. This is okay. And do this great big reframe and focus on all of the other things that I had learned to do in the process was really, really helpful. And one of the biggest things I was doing, I bit my lip. Sorry. One of the biggest things I was doing at that time, I had started running. I started running to prove a point. I'm big at proving a point. Like just fuck around and find out. Like I will prove a point. But I started running to prove a point to the rattlesnake. I don't think it ever proved that point. That doesn't matter though. And I hate running. It is hard. It is hard. I am almost 6 feet tall. I have boobs that don't like running. They're like, don't run, right? And it's hard. Running is just hard. And the other side of that is when you accomplish it, when you finish, I felt very accomplished. And that feeling of accomplishment goes a long way. I remember at one point at work just being like, oh yeah, I got up and I just did a quick 5 miles this morning, blah, 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 blah. And it really was just a quick 5 miles because at that point I had been running half marathons. And so like a 5-mile run was just a quick little easy morning run because on the weekends I was doing like 10 and 11 miles. So like 5 miles is nothing whenever you're running 10 tomorrow. So, and somebody being like, I couldn't run a mile. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, it's just like, also, am I running 5 miles today? Literally, no. Am I walking 5 miles today? Not by choice. Like, I don't want to do that. But I was spending a lot of time running and I really did notice the difference. I noticed the difference in just how calm I felt. I noticed the difference in that I wasn't as quick to anger, right? It really did a lot for me. And then it got out a lot of tension and aggression, right? That's hard. And I also really like boxing. Boxing's a good time. Again, I like to be able to like get out this physical, like the anger and the tension in my body. And so that really worked for me. And I loved it. And I loved that I felt accomplished. And it was like, and I'm doing this for me. And this is a good thing. And so there was a shift in that mindset to go from all of these things that were so negative and so detrimental to my personal health, to the well-being of people around me and my entire livelihood, right? To be able to find things that also make me feel good. Therapy made me feel good. Running made me feel good. I know at one point my therapist was like, come to this mindfulness group. Like, I think you could really benefit from being able to do this mindfulness and being able to understand where certain parts of your body are feeling and how to do this. And I don't remember all of the words that she said. What I do know is that I went to this mindfulness group and that's a hard no. That's a hard fucking pass for me. I tried it. So uncomfortable. There's other people there. They wanted me to like close my eyes. I'm not closing my eyes in a room full of people. I'm not going to church and closing my eyes. I'm not sitting around your dinner table in your house and closing my eyes. I'm not closing my eyes at work. I'm not closing my eyes. Like absolutely, literally no. Like there is still so much fight or flight in my body from whenever I was little and throughout the entire span of my life. I'm not closing my eyes. And it causes immediate anxiety. Immediate spike. I can feel it. I can feel it in here's my mindfulness, right? I can feel it in my shoulder blades. I can feel it creep up my spine to the back of my neck. My leg starts pumping a mile a minute. Like, no, we're not closing our eyes in front of other people. And I actually just did this mindfulness activity at work a couple weeks ago. This like box breathing, literally hate. No box breathing for me. The idea that I have to sit and almost make myself hyperventilate because I have to hold my breath so much. No. What if I never breathe again? What if I die? Immediate anxiety. This is not helpful for me. That's gonna be a no. But I tried it. There are other breathing activities that I do really appreciate, and I think they do a really good job sort of recentering and just being able to slow down. I am so quick to respond. So being able to like just big breath and breathe out and do that a couple of times to slow down. There is actually a real thing that it does in your body to sort of recalibrate that. It's beneficial, but box breathing, hard pass. Mindfulness group where I have to be in a room full of all of these other people. No, pass. If it works for you, do that. Probably why I don't like yoga. Too slow, too mindful, too many people around. But if it works for you, I love that journey for you. It does not work for me. I color. I found coloring. I can color my ass off. It is a solid talent. I didn't realize this. I thought everybody could color. Not everybody can color. Not everybody can color. Here, if you are on the YouTube, you can see. Look at my beautiful coloring. Oh, I can color. I'm really good at it. And I love it so very, very, very much. So I found that and realized just how relaxing and peaceful that was. Painting. I can't paint. I like to paint, but I'm not, that I would not say I'm like great at. And so I just found other things, right? I've toyed back and forth with journaling, and there's been times where I have found it very, very helpful. And then, I do have some trauma with having words written down and used against me. But also, like, I've really enjoyed going back through that journal I had from 10 years ago because I'm like, girl, who are you? Who are you? You've come so far, Brittany. And, for that, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate being able to look back and be like, what a wild thing for you to be upset about. So, lots of journaling. I have a lot of different like art journals that I've made, and I do appreciate that. Just really taking some time to be thoughtful and intentional about putting a thing out, like, whether it's good or not. It's just where your brain is refocused. You can't think about 900 other things if you're focusing on this. You're being very intentional about this activity. Kind of the point. And then I have 900 fidget toys. I said that. I do. I have them all around. I have one right here. I actually probably have two right here. I mean, I have them all the time. I need them. Otherwise, I'm very obnoxious if you had to sit next to me. I gesticulate a lot when I talk. So that's already big energy. But I also can't sit still long. So if I'm sitting there and have to focus on anybody else, there's a lot of like bouncing and movement and shuffling around. And that is uncomfortable for other people. So some of that, I have to like rein it in and be really aware of that. And then fidget toys come in. So I love being outside. I love being outside. There is something about connecting with the ground. I would go to the beach when I lived in Virginia and really just kind of like put my hands and my feet under the sand and really being able to connect with that. When I moved back to Colorado, to be able to go hiking, to be outside, to touch the trees, to touch the rocks and just like be there and be in nature is so great for me. It's actually great for everybody. Again, it's a real life thing. Being able to have like, I don't know, the metals in the land or something can help rebalance and recalibrate like all of the minerals and stuff in your body. It's a thing. I'm not a doctor. Look it up if you want. Do look it up, genuinely. But I just know it's a real thing and I know it's helped. And then like I have a sprinkle of self-help books. I'm not spending all of my time reading self-help books because, I go to therapy and I am forever in training at work and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes, I just want to pick up a little self-help book and I want to see something written down that resonates with me or that I'm like, yes, I knew I was right. I knew I was right about that. See, it's written right there in this book. I underlined it because I knew I was right. And that is helpful. And sometimes that's just, you just need to be validated that feeling is real, validated that your response was real, validated that you are going to be okay and you are going to be better. And like, that's a real thing. So, sometimes I walk away with great insight after seeing somebody else agree with me. I'm so funny. I've learned to create my own boundaries, right? So somewhere along the way, I had to learn how to respect other people's boundaries, but then more so, I had to learn to create my own boundaries. That has really been put to the test since my brother died. Because I think every boundary that I had worked to create, my brother died and I threw them all out the window. And I was like, oh no, life's too short. We don't need these boundaries. And it's taken 2.5 years to get back to this place where I'm like, oh no, these boundaries, I need these boundaries because these are the boundaries that were keeping me safe. These are the boundaries that were helping me become a better version of myself. And it is very hard to become a better version of yourself when you are allowing all of the things that don't coincide with that in. The boundary thing, we are reworking that one. We're reworking it. I think being able to give myself grace, right? To be able to really understand who I am, but also who I want to be and give myself grace so that when I do fuck up, when I do lose my shit, when I don't respond appropriately, that I can forgive myself. I am still very much like a wild animal that gets backed into a corner when people physically come in my space. I have a very hard time with it. And it is not, I don't love that. I don't love that. Like, please don't touch me if I don't want to be touched, because I'm going to have this very animalistic response to that. And I don't like that, right? I don't want to walk away and be like, damn, I'm sorry I hurt you. But also I asked you not to touch me. Like, please respect my boundaries. I asked you not to, So I know that I still have work to do to be able to break some of those really poor habits and really bad skills. But I also know that in the interim, I do have a lot of other really great coping skills that I've learned along the way that are helpful for me that are helpful in my day-to-day life, that are helpful, to just becoming a better version of myself every single day. But I think really being able to give myself that grace and reflect back and be like, okay, well, that wasn't awesome. And also, how can I do better? How could I have not engaged in that? How could I have, stayed more calm? Was I the one that was antagonistic, right? Like I'm a human and, I'm certainly not perfect. So just being able to be self-aware and be able to be honest about that with whoever holds you accountable. Like for me, I mean, I'm pretty open with all of the things because I think that's integrity, right? If you don't want people to know about it, you probably shouldn't have done it and people are going to find out. So just being able to be like open and vulnerable and talk about those things has been really helpful for me, which also kind of leads me into that I have become very comfortable with inviting other people in to let me know when I'm not showing up my best. And that is something that really came very shortly after Chase died, like almost immediately. And it showed up at work first, but then I realized like, okay, if it's showing up at work, it's actually showing up everywhere. And so being able to hear somebody be like, I don't know if you think you're showing up differently, but you're actually being kind of a dick. Like you actually were being a little harsh. You actually like that hurt my feelings. And I don't know if you were intending to show up that way, but you're not showing up how I think you are. And I think that is okay. It's okay. And to know that I have people in my world that feel safe enough now telling me that. Whereas before, nobody's going to tell me anything because I'm just going to scream and yell or smash a plate or hurt myself, right? So now that I can have somebody come up to me and like, hey girl, hey, like, you want to go take a walk? Like, do you need a minute? Because I think you might need a minute, right? If somebody's coming up to me and be like, Brittany, I think you need a minute. No, okay, I probably need a minute. I'll be back. I'm going to take a lap. It's fine. And so I think that is okay as well. And really being able to laugh about that and accept that and thank people for having the courage to let you know that, right? Like we are surrounded by people all day, every day, and we impact them and our actions impact other people. I don't think the majority of us are intending to show up like dickheads in our day-to-day lives. Let it be okay if somebody says you are. That's kind of what I have to say about just like all of my, long journey of random coping, right? It can change. It's an evolving skill that I'm learning forever. So, I have good days and bad days, but you got to do what you need to do. I took a mental health day from work because I was just not in a place to be able to go to work, and I take time off around important holidays or things around my brother because I just know I'm not going to show up my best. That's coping, right? Even if I'm staying at home curled up in a burrito in my bed, I am coping somewhere. I'm giving myself the space and the grace to do what I need to do to protect myself, to heal the way that I need to heal. But also, like, that doesn't need to get on everybody. Like, it's okay to just kind of separate from other people sometimes. And then, it's never too late to start the day over. I have a sign in my house that says that it's never too late to start the day over. And it was a big thing for me and my kids. Like, okay, you had a bad morning. It's okay, reset. I'd come home in a bad mood from work and they'd point at the sign, Mom, never too late to start the day over. Okay, well, I'm home now. Let's start over. Let's reset. It's okay. Like this is like if you have a bad drive to work at 8 a.m., why on earth are you still pissed off at 3 p.m? Like you've encountered so many other people. Like it's okay. We can start over. We can reset. And that's okay. So that's always been a big mantra. Is mantra the word I'm looking for? In my house. So with all of that, like and subscribe wherever you are listening to, because again, why do you want to miss this? I'm filled with all of the things like, I'll take all of the accountability that you want to take as well. We'll get there together. Like and subscribe wherever you are listening. The video version of this also drops on YouTube every Monday. New episodes every Monday. And then you can engage and follow along on the Dysfunctionally Yours Instagram page. And that is where you will find that Google form. You can engage with content along the way. You can ask questions, take polls, whatever we've got going on. So like, subscribe, follow on Instagram, and don't be afraid to be great. Toodles, poodles, bye.